Hello, Top Fan Rivalry family. Welcome to a Thursday. We're back in action. The weekly review. That's Jackson. I'm Bill. It's all kinds of fun with the weekly review. Jackson, how the heck are you, my friend?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. Spring training started. It's nice when your team looks pretty good in spring training because then you get to feel good before the season starts.
Yep.
So yeah, it's fun.
Yep. It's always nice. It's always good that way, right? It's always good that way. We got some exciting things happening tonight on this episode. And after this, I mean, it's pretty freaking amazing. Everything that's happening. But let's first start out with our corporate sponsors. So we couldn't do it without our corporate sponsors. I'm not going to lie to you. This week we're focusing in on a few of our corporate sponsors. We're focusing in on Lang Roofing. They've been in business for over 40 years. Out of the Downey area, you need a home roof done, commercial, residential, reach out to Ryan Lang. Great guy. Known him and his family for years. Also, Mortgage Direct with Chris. You need to refinance. Chris is your dude. Jackson, why don't you explain to everybody what we do on the weekly review so that everybody knows what's happening?
As always, but for those of you that are new, I say something, Bill says something in rebuttal, and then he says something, and I say something in rebuttal, and we go like that until we go through like 3 or 5 things, and we feel like we've talked enough to bore you to sleep. That's why we do it so late, so you can catch some my Z's listening to us. But I'm just kidding.
Catch a few Z's.
Yeah,
now that we're live, they can catch a few Z's, brother. It looks bad. Oh my gosh, too funny. All right, so Jackson, why don't you lead us off? So why don't you take us through your number one? Now, everybody, you have to understand this. When we say 1, 2, 3, that does not mean that that's what was the most important of that week. That's just what we're mentioning and what we're going through. So Jackson, why don't you lead us off here?
All right, I'm going to start you off with a trivia question.
Oh, I like trivia.
All right, who is the only player to hit a walk-off home run in the Game 7 of the World Series?
Walk-off home run or walk-off grand slam?
He did hit a grand slam.
Joseph Carter.
Well, Game 7 of the World Series. I guess.
Okay.
Now,
all right, sorry. You had me. Listen, that's a fair statement for me to say that.
Yeah.
That's a fair statement. That was Game 6.
It was a solo home run. Yeah, no. Joe Carter did hit a grand slam, but that was Game 6.
That's a good question. Who would that be?
It is the now late but great Bill Mazeroski, Hall of Fame second baseman for the Pittsburgh Pirates, who passed this week. He's most famous for that first person ever to walk off a World Series. He helped the Pirates win that game 10-9. The Pirates were outslugged the entire series, and they won that series on pure, sheer willpower. And Bill Mazeroski and Roberto Clemente were the backbone of that team. And sad to hear of him passing. He's definitely an old school baseball player. If you look at his baseball reference, not that great of a hitter, really good defender.
Yeah, really good defender. No, I completely and totally agree with you, Jackson. That's a good one right there. That's a good one. That's way to start us off right there. Taking, you took the inside pitch, but you fisted it off and blooped it over the first baseman's head. Got yourself a single there. I like it. I like it. Okay, I'm going to go with the ever so. Now, please, everybody understand. If you're watching this live, great. If you're not watching it live, you're watching the replay, I get it. Okay, but here's the thing. I'm going to look at records for a second. Records do not matter in spring training, but they do tell a story, right? They do tell a little bit of a story because a lot of these teams that have, for lack of better terms, their lineup set, the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Red Sox, you're seeing a lot of players that are in the developmental stages. You'll sprinkle in the guys that will be playing, especially in the WBC. But I want to point out a couple of things. The Detroit Tigers are winless. Doesn't really matter. Athletics are 1-4. But here's what I think is interesting. I have a little bit of wager with my good friend Jimmy McGuire that the White Sox are going to have 81 wins or better this year, and they're 4-3 in the spring training. They seem to be putting some good talent together and some pieces together. I know that this doesn't matter yet But Jackson, doesn't it tell us a little bit of a story about the future of a ball club?
Early spring training, not so much. Like I said, there is stuff to get excited on, especially when the starters play. You get a home game, you get to watch the guys that are actually going to make the roster play for a couple innings. I think later in spring training, how the team is playing is probably a little bit more indicative of how the team's actually going to play in the season, because they start cutting it. Yeah, well, yeah, I'm so
Indication.
Indication, yes. But once they start cutting the camps down, it becomes major league guys and fringe major league guys who kind of get a feel for how a team's going to look. But I agree with you that the White Sox are going to be sneaky good. The AL Central is famously bad all the time. No offense to the teams that play in it, but
I'm taking.
Cleveland's really inconsistent. They always get the job done. Kansas City is missing some pieces. Detroit looks good on paper, but has also had stretches where they played really poorly. So I wouldn't be surprised if the White Sox somehow got themselves into that mix.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I just, again, it's not for me to say, oh, golly gee, right? Golly gee, they've got to do whatever, blah, blah, blah. But I think it's indicative. I mean, right now, the Dodgers are 6-0. You haven't seen a lot of the players that are going to be playing in, breaking camp and stuff like that play yet. So that's indicative of some of the younger kids and what some of the younger, some of the talent. Now, in the case of the Dodgers, if you're a first baseman, you're going to be waiting a while to come up, because Freddie says that he might want to sign an extension. He signs an extension to play to age 40. You're waiting a while if you're a first baseman. All of these things, right? So anyways, that's my number one.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
What you got for number 2, Jackson?
Number 2, the World Baseball Classic, you mentioned it earlier, is going to be starting up here in a little bit. And I got some beef with Tarik Skubal, who says he's only going to pitch one game, and it's going to be a group game. Now, I get it. You need to save your arm for free agency, Tarik. But there's 2 things you can do. Either A, pitch an elimination game if you're only going to pitch one game, or B, just don't pitch at all. He's trying to have his cake, and eat it. And I think this is the kind of mentality that puts the U.S. down a little bit in the World Baseball Classic, that some guys are only half committed. Yeah, it'll be nice to have Skubal for one start in the group stage, but does the U.S. really need him to get out of the group?
Yeah. Probably not. So
probably not. If he came out and said, I will pitch an elimination game, I'm only pitching one game, I would have shrugged my shoulders and been like, all right, yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, 100%.
But yeah, small beef with Skubal. He's trying to get the brownie points for playing for Team USA, but he's also trying to,
So I'm going to say something that's very unpopular right now, Jackson, and you and I both know how I feel about this, but I do not like the World Baseball Classic. I think it should be guys that are trying to break camp. There's some of the younger guys that, granted, you used to not be a professional athlete to play, but guys that are breaking camp. So, for example, TJ Rumfield, he's a first baseman for Colorado. He's had 11 at-bats and 3 home runs. Okay. Maybe that's the guy that goes into the WBC, or guys like first ballot Hall of Famer Clayton Kershaw at the end of your career. Go ahead and do it. Not during your career. Like, I'm the guy who says, if you get hurt, I'm not paying you.
Counterpoint. What's the difference between them getting hurt in camp and them getting hurt in the World Baseball Classic?
Because camp, if I'm a team manager, if I'm a team owner, they get hurt in camp. They got hurt while they were playing for me. They get hurt in the WBC. They're playing for absolutely nothing. But
you're playing for nothing in spring training too.
Yeah, well, you're playing for a job in spring training.
Tarik Skubal's playing for a job in spring training. Is he on the fringe of the Tigers rotation? Is that why he's on the trade block?
Well, I was just going to say, well, wait a second. Isn't he playing for a better contract? Like
he is. But I'm just saying, is Shohei Ohtani on the fringes? No, he wants to go play for Team Japan. And he's going to get probably higher quality at bats in the World Baseball Classic than he is against most of the guys he's going to face in spring training.
Yeah, 100%.
So,
all right, Jackson. So I'm going to stay right there. But before we do that, we got to re-mention our corporate sponsors, Lang Roofing in Southern California, Downey, California. These guys can do commercial. They can do residential. They're great, great, great dudes. We love these guys. Also, if you're looking to refinance your home nationally, reach out, go to our website, click on to topfanrivalry.com, go down middle of the section. You'll see some of our corporate sponsors there. Mortgage Direct is there. Click on it. It'll take you to Chris's website. All right. That being said, Jackson, I'm going to stay in the World Baseball Classic, and I'm going to go right there to where you love. You're near and dear to Atlanta. Now, I talked to a friend of mine. I'm not going to mention any names, Thomas Brown. And he told me something that, well, you probably already know too, that that Ronald Acuna Jr. is not going to be 100% for game time for opening day. The management asked him, please do not play in the WBC. And he said, I'm going to play in the WBC. Not only in that, I'm going to double down. I'm going to go to the Super Bowl too. Not a good look, Ronnie. Not a good look, especially since you haven't been on the field as much as they're paying you to be on the field. So that being said, Jackson, what are your thoughts here? Give me a counterpoint. Give me something.
The Braves just opened up their DH spot. So I think he's going to play 100% of the games that he can. It's going to be really easy for the Braves to slide him into the DH spot and give him, 2 to 3 days off a week if he's really feeling it. I like the flexibility they got. Marcell Ozuna could slug, but it's hard having a DH only kind of guy, especially one that's getting older whose production's going down. The DH only works when you have a guy like Shohei Ohtani or Kyle Schwarber sitting in your DH spot, where it's worth it. It's like this guy's. I don't want this guy playing in the field, but he's going to go out and hit 50 home runs, so I don't care. That's why David Ortiz had a really long and successful career. If David Ortiz didn't hit 35, 40 home runs a year, he wouldn't have played for the Red Sox his entire career. I'll tell you that. But I think the Braves roster flexibility by signing Mike Yastrzemski really kind of fleshes out that outfield. Mike Yastrzemski is a really high floor outfielder. He can play every day. He's not terrible against lefties. So it really kind of just helps the lineup. They can rotate guys in and out as they need. It'll be really interesting to see how the Braves utilize it early in the season. You'll see it utilized really well late in the season as well. When they need to give their two catcher system a day off every once in a while to keep them fresh.
Yeah. No, and I get this, Jackson, but here's my counterpoint to that. I'm going to read you from Baseball Reference. Okay. Ronnie Acuna Jr. 2020, he played in 46 games, which is a pretty high amount considering there was only 60 games, right? So I like that. The next year he gets hurt. He's only playing 2021, he played 82 games. 2022, he played 119 games. 2023 was that monster year that he had with 159 games. And then in 2024, he played 49 games. And last year, he only played 95 games. For a guy that is averaging less than 100 games a season for the last 5 years, you're not playing in the Baseball Classic. You get hurt in the World Baseball Classic, I'm not paying you, dude. Like, you got to step. There's got to be something there. And I'm not picking on this guy. I'm just saying that this is why I don't like the World Baseball Classic.
Yeah, but he runs the risk of getting hurt in camp too. He plays just as hard in spring training as he does in the World Baseball Classic. I mean, Truth. I don't know if you watched the dozen games he played in the Venezuelan Winter League, but he was balling hard. He was stealing bases. He was hitting home runs.
True.
It's just how he goes, and I think management understands to a point that he's just going to do it wherever he does it. So it's kind of just like a shrug your shoulders thing and like, that's just kind of how he is. And I think for a player like him, it's probably fine. But, there are certain players who, might try to overexert themselves. You probably prefer in camp where they're going to be way more relaxed.
I agree with you. I agree with you, Jackson, on that. But it's one of those things to me, Jackson. It's so weird, but so Ronald Acuna has 2 more years on his contract. But in his contract, there's opt-outs, right? I mean, the team can buy him out, basically. And if the team buys him out, it's at $10 million. But I think he's owed $17 million next season, and then $17 million the year after. What I'm trying to say is you don't want to tick off management at this point in the juncture, because let's just say, just for fun, okay, worst case scenario, he gets a little banged up in the World Baseball Classic, and he only plays 90 games for you next season. And management is ticked off. They buy him out. Okay, so instead of 34 mil tickets, he's now getting $10 million, and he's bought out. Now he's in free agency, and somebody's got to pick him up in hopes that they see a 2023 season from him, not the Anthony Rendon seasons that they've been seeing the last couple of years.
I'm just saying, if he went to free agency, he would get a lot more than 17 million. I'll tell you that. Even if he was banged up. I mean, this isn't a shot at the Dodgers. I'm going to preface this, but the Dodgers paid Michael Conforto $16 million last year.
Oh,
and
yeah.
He was, and no offense to Conforto, he was a bum last year.
Yeah. Listen, none taken. None taken. The guy.
I think he's got to like his chances,
I do. I agree with you, Jackson. I'm not gonna say that doesn't. I'm not gonna say that I don't buy that scenario, but okay. So.
Yeah, I mean, the other point is I don't think Venezuela has enough pitching to get them to go deep enough to where it's going to be he's playing too many games. Yeah. Honestly, unfortunately for Venezuela.
Exactly. You get my point. You're picking up what I'm throwing down. You understand?
I'm getting that you're putting down. I see your concerns.
Yeah. All right, my friend. What do you got for number 3?
Number 3, I want to talk about a young player who is going to make a lot of money and who I really want in fantasy baseball. And by saying it out loud, I know I'm not going to get him, but let's talk about Connor Griffin, the top prospect in baseball. He's absolutely he's a great player. He's having a good spring training so far. Last year in the minor leagues, he had 21 home runs. He stole 65 bases. Slug, had an OPS of over 900. He can slug. He gets on base. He's probably one of the best 19-year-old hitters we've seen.
Agreed.
I think Pittsburgh would be dumb not to put him on their opening day roster, but I know how this works. I know they're going to do some service time manipulation crap. Unless he really blows it out of the water but I think, if I'm Pittsburgh, I'm looking at signing him, to a Jackson Chourio type deal before he even plays a game, because it's worth it. Lock him down for a couple of years after free agency. You get a premier player in a premier position. Yeah. And the Pirates see position players, and this guy's really good. Mm-hmm. Fell into your lap at number 1 overall. And it's, you got to take advantage of this. We talk about it. Every time we talk about the Pirates, they got Paul Skeens, they got Jared Jones, they got Mitch Keller at the top of that rotation. What are you going to do with it? I think, galvanizing the team by putting Connor Griffin on your opening day roster, to make that lineup better is what the Pirates need to do to compete in the NL Central.
Mm-hmm. No, agreed. My number 3 is going to shock you a little bit. Jackson, I'm going to call out one team, and I'm curious to see if you've looked at their rotation. I'm actually going to pull up the rotation now, but I'm curious to see if you've looked at their rotation. I'm looking on their depth chart, right? Have you looked at the Boston Red Stockings rotation?
I have not.
Okay. So I'm gonna read to you this as I'm pulling this up, because you don't think of this much, but here's their active depth chart for their starting rotation. Garrett Crochet, Ranger Suarez, Sonny Gray, Braden Bello, Cutter Crawford, Patrick Sandoval, Peyton Toll, Conley Early. They've got 8 starting pitchers, and of those 8 starting, so baseball's a game of numbers, right? If you want to make the playoffs, the only way that you're going to make the playoffs is if you can get at least 45 wins from your starting pitching. If you want a guaranteed playoff spot with a chance to go deep in the playoffs, you have to get 60 or better wins from your starting pitching. I'm looking at this, and I think I can count to 55 or 60 wins from the starting rotation. Tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I think they definitely could. I think the Red Sox biggest weakness is they have a lot of, you know, they have a lot of veteran pieces, but is how is Sonny Gray going to hold up playing in Fenway Park? How's
Mhm.
Ranger Suarez? Ranger Suarez is a defense first pitcher. Is the Red Sox defense good enough to take advantage of that?
Mhm.
And again, Fenway Park, it's really tough. Garrett Crochet obviously is going to do what Garrett Crochet does, but the Red Sox, they feel a little top heavy, and the back end of that rotation's got a lot of young arms in it.
Mhm.
And when the pressure's on, that's when you really find out if you've developed your pitching or not. So
Okay.
I think I do agree with your point that they do have 8 solid options, but I think as far as rotations go in the American League East, they're probably third.
Mhm. Mhm.
I hate to
So
say it.
so let me tell me I'm wrong on this. Okay. If I'm trying to count to 50 to 60 wins, okay, Garrett Crochet is probably going to give me 14 to 17. Is that fair?
Yeah,
Okay. Ranger Suarez is probably going to give me 8 or better.
most definitely.
Okay.
Suarez will win double digits.
Okay. So we'll put him at 10.
Yeah,
So now on the worst case scenario, we got 24. Sonny Gray is going to give me 8. Do you like 8? Do you like 10?
I think 8's reasonable from Sonny Gray. I mean, it depends on it. Every once in a while, Cy Young, Sonny Gray shows up,
Mm-hmm.
and I
Okay.
think that's what the Red Sox are hoping for.
So that gives you 32. Bello, 10.
I'd probably put him closer to 8.
Okay. 8. Okay. So now we're at 40, right? So then that means you need to get 10 to 20 wins out of the rest of that. I think it can happen. I hate to say this, but I think it could happen.
I think it could, but I also see a scenario where it could be really tough for that to happen.
I mean, and remember, I'm saying Ranger Suarez, I'm saying Sonny Gray at 8 and 8. Like I was being
Yeah,
conservative, right?
yeah. No, I agree with you, but
So
I just feel like in the American League East, I feel like Toronto probably has a better overall rotation, and then so do the Yankees. The Yankees are going to get Garrett Cole back, and they spend a
maybe,
lot of money on that rotation. I think it's just going to be more consistent.
maybe, but see, and here's the as you use the word counterpoint. I love that word, by the way.
Mhm.
I'm gonna start
Yeah,
using that on our show. But
right ahead.
if you yeah, we didn't trademark it or anything, we're good to go. But if you use that as a barometer, let's say, I mean, Garrett Crochet has a year, he gets 17 wins. Ranger Suarez has a year, he gets 13 wins. That's 30 between the two of them. Sonny Gray has a year and he gets 10. There's 40. Bello has a decent year and he gets 12. That's 52 just from those 4 guys. I mean, if they have a year, right? But
Yeah, I understand, but let me tell you, as a fan who watched his team use the most starting pitchers in Major League history last year,
mhm.
you can throw all the guys out there you want. It's hard to win baseball games.
I don't,
Unfortunately.
I don't, I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you. But when I'm looking at the Yankees depth chart, you got Max Friese, you got Cam Schuttler, Will Warren, Ryan Weathers, Luis Gill, Carlos Rendon, and Garrett Cole. I don't know that I can count to 60 there yet. It all depends on how Cam does in his true freshman year, right? Remember, he
Yeah.
came up towards the end of the season, so it all depends on where he goes, and it all depends on what Gill does, right? I can see Mad Max getting 16, 17,
Yeah.
but Garrett Cole doesn't come back till May or June.
I know, but again, that can he can come back revitalized, as they say. Tommy John's like a cheat code nowadays. Back in the day, you had Tommy John, your elbow was shot. Nowadays, it's like, oh, you can just throw faster.
Yeah,
Cool.
so throw harder.
Yeah, because they're taking now they're taking the hamstring muscle and putting it in there, and I'm like, yo, okay, that sounds like cheating at this point, honestly.
Oh, it's too funny. Yes, that's true. That's true. Um, Okay, everybody, for those of you that aren't familiar with this show, this happens every Thursday, same time, same channel. We've had a couple of just injury updates on the show. So, we haven't been around for a couple of weeks. Not the end of the world. We'll be back every week. We always go through 3 to 5, depending on time. We got through 3 today. We're going to do some honorable mentions, and then usually we play like a Stump the Jackson or Stump whoever. And so today, I got a question for Jackson that I've mentioned to him before. I want to see if he remembers the answer. But Jackson, do you have any honorable mentions?
Yeah, old guys. Justin Verlander back to Detroit. Max Scherzer just signed with Toronto. The old guys are still kicking. I do wonder when Verlander's going to stop pitching. I imagine it's a day when he's a, below league average pitcher. So we might be here for a while with Verlander. He might have, the Randy Johnson / for those of you who know, Jamie Moyer type career where he's just going to go out there and just keep who keeps throwing until someone's like, Justin, you should go home and hang out with your family.
Kate's like, keep working, Justin, keep working. Though, Jackson, I love those guys, and I'll tell you why I love those guys, because you're not paying just for Justin Verlander to throw 200 innings. We all know that that's not going to happen. What you're paying for is you're paying for Justin Verlander to work there and to coach there at the same time. That's really what you're paying for.
Yeah, they're essentially player coaches. I mean,
to
have a guy like Verlander or a guy like Max Scherzer who, they both won multiple Cy Young Awards. They're really good pitchers to teach your young pitchers. It's worth it. And if they give you 150 innings on the side, fantastic.
Yeah, 100%. My honorable mention, and I'm only doing this as an honorable mention because I don't want to dwell on it, but I'm glad that one person finally showed their true colors. We learned this week that winning is not even in the top 5 priorities for the Angels, according to their owner. Probably the worst thing ever that he could have said. Just saying, Jackson. Just saying.
He said the fan survey said that, and I'm like, how'd you phrase the survey? Was it like, what would you like to see improved? Because the fans aren't going to put winning because they don't have faith in Artie Moreno to win. So why would they ask him to do that?
Exactly. I mean, affordability, safety. I'm like, well, if you put affordability in with safety, doesn't one wash out the other? Because if it's too affordable, you're going to get people coming in for dollar hot dog nights or whatever, and all they're going to do is want to cause trouble because they can't, like it.
Because they're bored. Yeah, they have too much money to spend on other stuff when they're only paying $1 for a hot dog. Look up why it's discontinued in Philadelphia, and
it's kind of like, we won't mention the name on the show here, but Frank McCourt, when he had the dollar hot dog nights on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And just in the pavilion area, when that wasn't attached to Dodger Stadium, it was just out in the area. Jackson, you've been there, so you know. And Barry Bonds would get pelted with dollar hot dogs when the Giants would come in, and then they had to stop that.
That's what happened in Philadelphia. Too many hot dogs flying at the outfielders. So
Yep. All right, so I'm going to play a little Stump the Jackson right now, see if I can get to the Stump the Jackson.
All right.
Okay, next week, Jackson, you are on for me. Just a quick reminder as we wrap up, we have corporate sponsors. We cannot do this without them. Lang Roofing, we're grateful for them. Commercial, residential roofing, loaned, Mortgage Direct with Chris. He can help you with a refinance. He can help you with the purchase. He's great. All right, here we go. Stumping Jackson. Now, Jackson, I know this game happened in your lifetime. And I know we've talked about it, and I'm just trying to shake out the memory noggin here. Are you ready, Jackson?
Yes, I am.
Can you name the only time in baseball when somebody hit a home run, was credited for an RBI, but was called out?
A home run credited with an RBI, but was called out.
Mm-hmm.
You said this happened in my lifetime?
Yep. Yes, sir. We've talked about this before. I'm glad I'm stumping you. I'm feeling good about this. Woo-woo.
Yeah, I'm not remembering this one.
Okay.
So my guess is a home run was hit and he passed somebody on the baseline. or didn't touch a bag.
Let me
Like
know
a
when you're tapped
fool.
out, and I'll tell you.
Yeah, I'm not even drawing a name.
Okay, opening day.
Okay.
Opening day in Denver.
Mm-hmm.
Justin Turner is on first base. Cody Bellinger hits the ball that I want to say it was Dexter Fowler that was out there. He jumps the fence to try to catch it. It hits off the top of his glove and goes out of the yard. Well, Justin thought it got caught, so he started running back to first. Cody's doing his home run trot and passes Justin up. So immediately they call Cody out. He's credited for the home run, or he's credited for an out, but he's credited for an RBI because now the ball's out of play, so Justin can run for as long as he wants.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was opening day. I
was gonna say, didn't George Brett get an RBI on that home run he hit with the pine tar bat? Did they just call them out?
I don't know if they credit him with an RBI or not.
I'll do some research for next week for that one.
Yeah, for next week for sure. But yeah, no, he got credited with an RBI. It was, I want to say it was 2017. I was watching it at a friend of mine, Mark's house, and all of a sudden, I want to say it was Steve Lyons. He says, oh my gosh. And he passed him up. And I was like, oh no, they're going to call him out. So another fun tidbit, speaking of Steve Lyons, Jackson, you ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
You've seen the movie For Love of the Game?
A long time ago.
Okay. Well, you remember Steve Lyons was in the booth with Vin Scully, right? I asked Steve Lyons, we had him on a show on Wednesday, a week ago Wednesday, and I asked him, what the script was like. Were you actually at Yankee Stadium when that happened? And Steve said, no, we were not. We were actually in a sound stage. They had filmed all of he said they built a replica of the press box, even down to the cigarette like stains in the table. He says, not only did they do that, but in addition to that, they did, they showed the game. They had recorded all the baseball scenes. They showed this game and then looked at Vinny and Steve and said, okay, now call the game. No script, just call the game. So all the back end stuff that you hear Vin Scully talk about, oh, Sam Tuttle was this and that, was all made up on the fly by Vinny. And Steve's kind of like, I can't do that. Like that whole line, the cathedral that is Yankee Stadium belongs to a chapel. Not in a script. Didn't exist.
I don't think Vin Scully ever used.
That's probably
honestly
true. Much love to Vinny, right?
Yeah. I'm sure he had the paper with all of his fun little stats on it, but, I don't think it was scripted. I just think he'd be sitting there and he'd be like, you know what? And he'd just pull out his paper and he'd just read off of it. Because that's
back in 1952, the wind was blowing southeast at 2 miles an hour, and he came up with pine tar. And
he remembers because he spilled mustard from his Dodger dog on his shirt because he was there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, everybody, we will be back here next week. We appreciate those of you that watched live, those of you that have not watched live and are watching on the replay. We appreciate it. By all means, follow Jackson, Top Fan Stats Guy. We got plenty going on with him this year. Top Fan Rivalry. Make sure you're following us on X. Give us a subscribe to us on YouTube. We got a plethora of things happening. In fact, in 32 minutes or so, we are live. Well, we're not going to be live, but we will be in a Zoom link with Zach Manassian Sr., who wrote a book called Lasorda University. Zach's sons, one is the equipment manager for the Braves. One of them is the GM for the Angels. The other one's the GM for the Giants. So huge baseball family there. It's going to be a lot of fun. So if you're interested in getting that Zoom link, you only got about 25 minutes to go. Message us on our socials, either X or actually use X if you could. Message us now on the Top Fan Rivalry X or Instagram, and we will make sure that we get you the link. Jackson, we're going to do it again next week, right?
Yeah, sounds good.
Giddy up. All right, everybody. Have a fantastic week. Baseball is back. We'll talk to you soon.